What's up, guys? I'm Ryan Engler here with Sam Aleinikoff and Jake Mastbaum, and we're here for Slope Media's preview show, a special Sweet 16 edition. That sounds pretty good to me. Obviously, this past weekend we were in Jacksonville, Florida, where the Big Red put on an absolutely dominant display in the first and second rounds, winning each of their games by an average of 15.5 points in the game on Sunday. Shot 61% from the field. Just ridiculous numbers for Cornell. But they have a daunting task ahead of them. The top-seeded Kentucky Wildcats, widely regarded to be the best team left in the tournament, the team with the best chance to win a national championship, is the team that is in Cornell's way. So, getting right into it, obviously quite a task for the Big Red. What are they going to have to do in this game to advance to the Elite Eight?
I mean, I think point number one is going to be they're going to have to start out hot. They did it against Wisconsin, and they've done it throughout the season at times. They've got to start out by making their baskets. They made their first 5 against Wisconsin, and this is something that Coach Donahue stressed today in the press conference, that if you get out to a hot start, then you kind of put a little bit of pressure on Kentucky. They haven't seen that pressure yet in the tournament. They've won 2 big blowouts. They beat Wake by 30 in the second round. So when you haven't seen that type of pressure, maybe if you get into them early on, then Kentucky starts to get a little bit frustrated, get a little bit flustered, and you have a chance.
I was talking to Jeff Goodman of Fox Sports today and asked him what Cornell needs to do to win. His response was pray. One of the hosts of ESPN First Take, what % chance do you give Cornell to win this game against Kentucky? A big fat goose egg. I've been asked this question a lot since Cornell moved on to Sweet 16. Can Cornell beat Kentucky? And you know what? I've had the same answer. Why not? Cornell can really win this game. They've been one of the most dominating teams in the tournament. And you know what? The three-point ball is one of the great equalizers in college basketball. And Cornell shoots it better than everyone. You know what? It is going to be a challenging task. First 2 rounds of the tournament, Cornell was the better team on the court. This round against Kentucky, they may not be the better team on the court, but they can win.
They definitely can.
Obviously, for the Big Red right now, confidence sky high. And this is a team that, has really, thought highly of themselves all season. And, we were able to talk to Coach Steve Donahue after the Wisconsin game, and the one thing that he said about this team is that, they really believe in themselves. They really believed in, what they are doing. They never lost faith. And the guy that's sort of at the center of all of this is, the senior, the center, the tri-captain, Jeff Foote, the man who predicted a Sweet 16 finish for the Big Red at the beginning of the season. And needless to say, here we are in Syracuse at the Sweet 16. Jeff Foote's going to be a crucial player in this game, and he's going up against arguably the best big man in the country in DeMarcus Cousins.
Well, Ryan, I'm going to completely agree with you here. This matchup is key. And, Jeff Foote's development since he got to Cornell has been talked about so much, so I don't want to get into that there. This isn't like when Jeff Foote went up against Stanford and was just purely overmatched. I think one thing that Jeff Foote did this season is he proved that he can go toe-to-toe with any big man in the country. Granted, DeMarcus Cousins is a different animal than Cole Aldridge, but when Cornell went down to Kansas to play the Jayhawks, he really held Aldridge in check, and that was one of the reasons why Cornell was able to stay in that game. But the big thing about this Kentucky game that you didn't mention there is they have Cousins, but they also have a kid named Patrick Patterson. And when you have two big men down there, Foote can only defend one at a time, and he's going to have his hands full with one. And that second one they could really bite you in the rear end, and that's one thing Cornell really needs to watch out for.
When you look at Cousins, he's 25 pounds heavier, he's an inch taller, and he's a different type of player. He's a guy who really seems like he's going to be more of the aggressive type on the glass, going after rebounds, and just maybe not on the defensive end. Cole Aldridge, a great shot blocker, but going at the hoop, he's really going to attack the basket. And I think that's something that Jeff Foote's just going to have to match him energy-wise. He's got an inch on him, and he's giving up 5 pounds. Cousins is a huge guy in the post. He's really going to have to match him energy-wise. And when you look at the 4 position, you've got John Jake starting for the Big Red, and they've got a few other guys who can rotate in there. One of the guys, Mark Curry, who obviously played for Kentucky, and he played next to Patterson. He played the 5 while Patterson played the 4 at Kentucky when he was a starter one year. I think looking at that position, you got to go back to the Kansas game when they played the Morris twins, and Jakes and the rest of the 4s really did a good job of shutting them down. I don't think either guy hit a bucket all game in that matchup, and if they were able to have that type of success against potential future NBA guys, maybe not as polished as Patrick Patterson, then you got to expect that they have some confidence going into this game, and maybe we'll be able to put a similar effort out there against a guy like Patrick.
No doubt the low-post game going to be crucial to a potential Cornell victory. I think that we can agree that one of the things that allowed Cornell to win, one of the most central components to the victory formula in the first 2 rounds, was that Cornell, was able to kind of play their own game. I was lucky enough to talk to Jay Billis today at the stadium, during the Cornell practice, and one thing that he mentioned was that, Jay Billis is a guy that picked Cornell to win the game, unlike most people. And Billis said Kentucky is the better team. That is clear. If Cornell is going to win this game, it's because Cornell is playing their own game and they're controlling the game. That's something they did against Temple and they did against Wisconsin. What can we say about Cornell tempo? And, how crucial is that to Cornell even staying in this basketball game, let alone winning it?
It's that word you said right there at the end, tempo. Tempo is going to be key in this matchup. Kentucky plays a very fast tempo. Cornell can play that tempo. They average over 75 points a game this season. So they do like to move the ball, but they can't do it at the pace Kentucky can. That is just a whole nother animal right there. Cornell is going to really have to try and slow the pace, really make it a half-court ball game, run their sets. They have a very efficient offense, maybe one of the most efficient in the country. They really run their stuff to perfection under Steve Donahue. And that's what it's really going to take to win this game. One of the things that Kentucky's got to look out for is this is a game, unlike the first 2 rounds, that they may not win in the first 5 or 10 or even 15 minutes of this game. And as that clock ticks and Cornell is still hanging around, this young Kentucky team may start to get a little anxious. They may start to get a little worried. Why aren't we beating these kids from the Ivy League? A lot has been made about that today at Media Day, about the whole nerd Cornell perception, but these kids are basketball players. They're going to play. They have the ability to control the pace, and if they can do that, look for Cornell to hang around till the end.
It's interesting. That's one thing that DeMarcus Cousins went back to time and time again during the press conference today. These kids are ball players. They're here to play basketball. They're not here to read books on the court, he said at one point. They're here to play basketball. Kentucky understands that clearly. I was talking to John Feinstein of the Washington Post earlier on today, and one of the things he compared this matchup to was to Cornell's matchup with Missouri in the tournament last year. He said it was like that, but this Kentucky team is even better. And one thing Missouri did successfully in the second half of that game, at least, was they sped up this Cornell team. But there's also a big difference in this Cornell team from this year and the Cornell team last year.
Absolutely.
And the main difference in my mind is a healthy Lewis Dale. Feinstein also said that one of the keys for Cornell is can they keep Dale out of foul trouble and on the court.
Right.
And that's one thing that he's had trouble with this year. If he's on the court, they're going to be able to break that defensive pressure that I think Kentucky's able to put out there, at least somewhat more successfully than they did against Missouri in the second half, I think. And if they're able to do that, then I think that kind of neutralizes the pace argument, the tempo argument a little bit, because I think Dale can really play at any pace.
I'm gonna throw an intangible out there that everybody's talked about, but we need to address. This game's in Syracuse, New York.
Oh yeah,
It's 40 miles away from Cornell's campus. Cornell students are on spring break, but I expect the Carrier Dome to be flooded with Cornell supporters. Steve Donahue trying to get the message out after the Wisconsin game said, we're going to turn this orange stadium red.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, even if you don't turn it red, the Orange fans out there today were rooting for the big red.
Yeah, they were. They were booing Kentucky hardcore during practice. So anytime you have a lower seeded team, you're probably going to get the support of most of the fans. But I would expect that Cornell. This will. And the Kentucky players even said it today in the locker room. This is a road game for us. Coach Calipari has instilled that into us. We have to look at this game, even though we're wearing the white jerseys. We're playing this game as if we're playing on the road.
And I want to say, we made that drive today. It is not a bad drive.
Not bad at all.
To Syracuse. So get to Ithaca, get your red on, get your Cornell basketball gear, and just get to the Carrier Dome. Find a way there, bus it, walk it, bike it. Come on, you can do it. Cornell needs your support.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game tomorrow. I hope. I think it's going to be one of the best games of the tournament, personally. This game is going to tip off tomorrow. That's Thursday night, 9:57 Eastern Time on CBS. We're going to be covering the game, too. You can follow us on Twitter. That's Slope CU Sports. And we're going to be giving you updates all night, including from the West Virginia-Washington game, which will be preceding that. Needless to say, I'm very excited. But until then, I'm Ryan Engler with Sam Aleinikoff and Jake Mastbaum. Thanks for watching, guys.